Nick Caserio and DeMeco Ryans speak. What did they have to say about the picks they made? We've said a lot. We'll say more, but we'll hear from them. Plus, scary moment for Tank Dell, but it seems like he's going to be all right. Let's go inside the locker room. Let's put a bow on this draft.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game.
All right, Nick Caserio and DeMeco have spoken. Let's hear what they got to say about the draft. We'll do that in a sec. First, let's start with some troubling news. I got the text as I was kind of resting up. And man, I'll be honest with you. After the draft, like the Sunday after the draft under the new format and under the old format, the Monday, whether it was work or class, always rough for me. A lot going on. It's one of my favorite times of the year. So I didn't anticipate that we would be talking about some news like this, but Tank Dell was shot in Florida. The Texans released a statement saying that they've been made aware that Tank Dell was the victim of a shooting in Sanford, Florida earlier this morning. He sustained a minor wound, but has been released from the hospital. He's in good spirits. They're in contact with him and his family. We'll provide more updates when appropriate, but we ask that you respect his privacy at this time. Thoughts and prayers with everyone involved in the incident. Fox 26 had more on the story. I guess a fist fight had broken out. Someone started allegedly shooting recklessly into the crowd, and the result was a 16-year-old being taken away in handcuffs. The report stated that management provided information that confirmed the guy did in fact shoot a firearm into the crowd of people inside the venue. Officials said since the suspect was a juvenile, authorities made contact with his mother. She didn't want him to speak till he got an attorney, and then authorities added the firearm used by him was a 9mm. Texan statement we've already read. And apparently Tank Dell is going to be okay. So probably a scary moment for him. I do wonder, with stuff like this, like how, I mean, there's always, like as a young man, there's stuff that happens where it kind of opens your eyes. Like even if the result is not as bad as it could have been, it kind of opens your eyes. And Tank Dell is not, I mean, no one's ever accused Tank Dell being a troublemaker or anything like that, but you just got to wonder, probably never going to be the same whenever you go out or anything like that. So we'll figure it out. It's been a crazy time for Tank Dell, obviously recovering from the injury. And we'll see what happens here, but it doesn't seem like it's going to impact him, at least when it comes to the season, being ready for the season. They got a few months. I don't know what a minor wound means, honestly. I have no idea. I don't know how they measure those types of things, but I guess they feel comfortable enough to say a minor wound, and he got sent home immediately. So that's the good news. Let's get to the draft, though. As far as this draft, the day two has kind of grown on me a little bit. It's the tackle thing is interesting, but I think if we're looking at a 2-year plan, I can understand the tackle thing, and I think it's a proactive evaluation. Like if you can get in a situation where, let's say Blake Fisher is able, or you feel comfortable enough that he can be one of your starting tackles in 2 years when you have to pay CJ Stroud, I'm okay with that. The Lassiter pick I think is interesting because in a perfect world, when you draft a corner in the second round, you hope that you feel comfortable enough for him to be a starter. The sales pitch for him from Caserio, it seems very B.O.B. Brian Gain like, where we're talking about versatility and all that. And look, I know that 40s aren't the end all be all, but 4.6 is pretty slow for a corner. I'm sure you can give me some examples, but 4.6 is pretty slow for a corner. But if he can be a contributing corner in the short term, good. Blake Fisher, if he can develop into someone you feel comfortable starting in a couple years, cool. If he can fill in for Titus Howard or Laramie Tunsil, if they miss time, then all right. The Bullock pick, I like Bullock a lot. I like his makeup. I like the fact that they have a ball hawk safety I know these USC guys probably put out some bad tape last year just because it became kind of a bleep show and their defense was really the face of that. But the way this kid can attack the ball, the way that he seems to have makeup, and the way that he seems like he can complement the other safeties they got, I'm a fan of him. He's actually faster than the corner you drafted. Hill out of Oregon was a DB before. Now you're going to have him at linebacker. Look, let's just be serious. You need, if you watch this team play last year, and I know they got different guys. I know they got Shire, they got Harris. Linebackers in coverage was a serious problem for this team last year, like a serious problem. Now, I don't know how he fits in size-wise, but with the experience at DB, if he can cover a lot of ground and he can cover, I mean, how many times did we see Denzel Perriman or Henry To'oTo'o in coverage, and it was just an absolute disaster? So whether it's being a situational linebacker or a guy that you could put on the field, linebacker coverage was a problem last year. Jawar Jordan, the running back out of Louisville, I look at this guy as a guy who's going to have a chance to get on the team as a kick returner. I kind of think the Texans missed the boat in getting impactful running backs in this draft. Miami took advantage of it. San Francisco took advantage of it. The Texans, because they had to trade up for Stover. This just seems like a maybe he can contribute on kick return. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But I don't look at this as like anything significant. I still think the running back position from 2 down on the depth chart is it's a frustrating problem for me because I think you need multiple running backs that can make plays. If you want to sell me on Dameon Pierce, cool. I'm not rooting against Dameon Pierce. I like Dameon Pierce. But right now, Dameon Pierce is perhaps your second best running back. And you've got to get past having to put Daria Agumbawale out there anywhere but special teams. Solomon Byrd out of USC. No issue here. This is just kind of a guy who kicked the tires. Maybe he makes the squad. Maybe he doesn't. He could be a practice squad guy. Maybe play his way in. Harris out of Auburn. I like Harris. I do think they have a decent track record of finding guys and them contributing at D-line. But I would say that a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for you, but it did feel like if we were talking about need and what the Texans needed to draft, the fact that they didn't get a defensive tackle till the 7th round probably disappoints some people. I was never as big on the defensive lineman as a need, but if you were, and there were a lot of you, probably a little bit disappointed that they didn't get one till the 7th. And then Henderson, the tackle out of Michigan. This guy's versatile. And if you're going to draft a guy in the 7th round, maybe he can. He played left tackle last year for Michigan. I know he's played left guard. He's been in multiple schools. I know Jim Harbaugh speaks very highly of him. Maybe he's one of those guys who plays into a role where when he's called upon, he can fill in. Kind of like a better version of Austin Deculus, maybe in like an ideal scenario. Who knows? A lot of these, we could end up using these guys as examples of guys that you find at the end of the draft. But for the most part, you got a corner that's going to compete. You got a swing tackle that hopefully can develop into someone you feel good about starting in a couple of years. You got a safety that does something that no other safeties on your squad can do. You got a linebacker that can hopefully cover. And hopefully DeMeco can put some of that magic dust on him. And then you got a running back that maybe he can return kicks in this new format. Who knows? And then you got a couple of guys that whatever happens with them. I don't think you have too high expectations. So not a terrible draft. The organization does have the benefit of the doubt, which is cool. But I'll put it this way. And this is what I was saying to everyone. And shout out to everyone who came out at Dailies to Dailies yesterday. It was a heck of an effing time. If someone would have put this mock draft out, like even the most optimistic Texans fan wasn't going to say, quote, they cooked. or anything like that. I think that's like the popular line when it comes to this mock draft. So to be determined. Not when we see what they look like at training camp, it's fine. But as far as like winning the draft, which doesn't mean everything, I don't think this was like overly exciting. But hey, some of the most exciting drafts don't end up going well. It is the Locker Room. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. I'll have draft pick updates. I don't know if y'all noticed what I did with those thumbnails. Getting to know the draft picks. We've already gotten 3 up. We'll do the rest and we'll hear what all they got to say. But some of y'all may have caught this, some of y'all may have not. But what I did on these thumbnails is I basically did the Mike Jones cover. If you can see here, let's see. Yeah, so if the Who is Mike Jones album right there, you can see like the Who is Mike Jones, you got the skyline, all that type of stuff. And then I just did that with them. So if you want to get to know those guys, you want to hear them, go check that out. Little thing that I did there. Let's hear from Nick Caserio. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans and what the heck they got to say. Let's react to it. And then let's get ready for one of the most fun shows every year on the radio, Reaction Monday after the draft. Here's Nick and DeMeco. Look how happy they are.
In case we pushed you to sleep. All good? I'm waiting a few more. So, all right. We got the loyal crowd right here.
Yeah.
So.
They thought y'all would still be back there pulling out some trades. Thought you had a couple more trades on
We'll save them for next year. So that's what the spring is for.
You guys can start with questions.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, look, just real quick. I mean, again, another productive day for us. A lot of good conversations in the draft room. I mean, a lot of work, a lot of effort. I mean, DeMeco and I were just talking. It feels like we grinded out a win, but that's what this is about.
How about that? Mr. Don't Grade Drafts just said, I feel like we grinded out a win. By the way, shout out to Grits for the 5. I'm sniffing because it's been a long weekend, no doubt. But Mr. Grading Drafts is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Just said that they grinded out a win. How about that? How about Nick?
And really what we did today, hopefully, is continue to build the depth of our team with a lot of good quality guys. It's about competition. So, I mean, that's kind of what this day is usually about. So you guys can go ahead and ask some questions, and we'll answer.
DeMeco, when you look at what was accomplished in all 3 days, how do you feel about where this sets you guys up and just kind of young men you brought in?
We're very excited about all the guys that we brought in. Feel like all these guys are quality players that add to the depth, add to the competition of our team. And so we're excited about the guys. We like all the guys that we were able to pick, and we want to work with these guys. So, and we're fired up about it.
Nick, you had mentioned yesterday how Jared Patterson was able to help provide insight on Blake. What type of insight may CJ have been able to provide on Cade, and what was your impression of him?
Yeah, honestly, as soon as a player comes in your building, when you draft them, you can go back to a year or during the course of the fall, you always have different conversations about different players because they're always conscious of their alma mater and how they're doing. So whether it's Patterson, whether it's Will Anderson, whether it's CJ, they know our team. They know the type of people that we want in this building, and they have insight, probably better insight than maybe we even have. And I would say when you look at a lot of our players, JP, Will, C. Harris, CJ, they understand football, and they're very perceptive, so they can provide valuable insight. So we certainly, we'd be remiss if we didn't utilize that information. So it's not the driving force, but it's helpful in the overall evaluation. So if we have a question, maybe it's something that we go to Patterson with and say, hey, we're not sure about this. What are your thoughts on this? Because ultimately, it's about the players, and they're going to be sitting next to each other in this room, just like they were at their alma mater. So we'll utilize the information wherever it's provided and try to make good decision with that, with that assessment.
Several of the players that you drafted, and it's been, I think, now 2 or 3 drafts. You not only go for position versatility, but you also go for captains. What is the standout when it comes to the captain persona, just the leadership? Is it something that you covet for certain players, or just criteria, just overall thoughts when it comes to that?
Yeah, leadership comes in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, there's a reason his nickname's Cap. So that's important. Like when you wear that C on your chest, it's important. So we don't go out and say we're going to or we have to draft captains. It's usually pretty organic. It's a part of the evaluation. But if you're elected captain, it says something about what your teammates think of you. So it's not something where we're looking for a box and say, well, we're just going to draft captains. Well, if it works out that way, great. But they have, obviously, they're respected by their peers, they're respected by their teammates. And like we've talked about, the type of people that we bring in this building absolutely matters. And we're always going to put a premium on that.
When you take a look at the draft selection of Jordan, the running back, what do you think he will be able to provide to your offensive backfield?
And we really like the juice that he has out of the backfield. I think he has plays with tremendous speed, so we're looking to add some speed to our backfield, and we think he provides that for us. And he also provides some special teams value as well as a returner. So
Yeah, and I think that's going to be his role if he has one is returner. We'll see what happens in the backfield, but yeah, that's where his value is.
Really excited about the role that he's shown that he was able to do at Louisville, and excited about seeing him come in and compete here.
Nick, I know you talk about picking players more on just are they good players instead of need, but now that you're finished with the draft, do you feel like you addressed some needs that this team had?
Yeah, your team's never really the finished product. So part of between now and honestly training camp, now we'll kind of go into the evaluation of where the team actually is. We may think it looks one way on paper. Then when we get more information here in the spring, we're going to start phase 2. So it's first opportunity, where the staff will be on the field with the players. So we're going to get more information. Then we're getting to training camp. There's a good chance the team, for the most part, it'll look the way it looks today, but there might be something that pops up. I'd say what you're going to find is there'll be several players that are going to be available because of decisions or moves that other teams have made. Okay. So maybe there's an opportunity at a certain position. Maybe we think if we can upgrade the depth or add a player that has value at a certain position, that might be an opportunity for us to add that player to our team. So we're in a decent spot. We're excited about where we are. We'll probably have a lot of movement here between now and probably the end of the spring. There'll probably be some players who we move on from here over the next few weeks, but that's just the attrition that goes on this time of year. So we'll get more information as we go, Christy, and then make a decision that, ultimately we feel is best for the team.
And I mean, that's interesting. So Nick Caserio not dismissing the possibility of adding guys and perhaps letting guys go. So that's something to keep an eye on when it comes to how this roster could shape up, what they may or may not do.
Jamal Hill, I think that was the last pick of all the assets that you guys were able to accumulate from the Sean Watson trade. Looking back, in a short period of time, how much do you think all the assets that you guys were able to accumulate help put you guys in a position now where you feel like if you had to play a game today, you guys could go and play a game today?
Yeah, honestly, that's so far in the past. You guys are keeping track of that. We haven't spent one second talking about, here's the end result. So we're just adding football players to the team with the opportunities that we get.
Zapardo?
Regardless of what trade took place. DeMeco and I have talked about this. We talked about it before the draft. If we have to go out there and play a game, if we had to go out there and play a game before the draft, we felt that we'd be competitive. So in the end, it's just each year you have an opportunity to add players to your team. However you acquire the assets, you acquire them. And there's no, specific formula. So that's for you all to talk about. Honestly, we probably haven't spent time on it since we did the trade however many years ago.
Can you address both of y'all, Nick and DeMeco, address the two players y'all pulled off of University of Southern Cal? You got the safety, you got the edge rusher. Who was looking at which one? Obviously, the safety stood out first, but was there somebody, once y'all started looking at SC, that the second one just sort of stood out, and we sort of had them ranked
I think they probably evaluate guys individually.
on the board where you can come back and pick them up?
Since they're both defensive players, I'll defer to the head coach.
Definitely,
Nick's giggly, man.
Starting with Bullock, right? You see just his ball skills, his range, back there in the deep half of the field. It's just stood out. He's an exceptional playmaker, attack the ball. It's what we are about on defense, attacking the ball, and that's what Bullock does. That's what we're looking for him to do for us. And then when it came to Bird, just looking at guys who has the traits there to play our style up front. He plays hard, relentless. He's a tough player, and then he has the skill to get after the quarterback. So we're excited about adding a guy at that point in the draft, adding a guy who had the skill set that we like, length, and he can rush the quarterback.
DeMeco, we got to speak to you, Nick, about this yesterday, but when it comes to Kamari Lassiter, the cornerback from Georgia, what were some things that you noticed about his film that really stood out, and what were some things that you think he can provide for this defense immediately?
Yeah, Kamari provides toughness. He provides, you talk about energy and the way he plays the game, like he loves football, and it shows on the tape. It jumps off the tape. He's a versatile player. He can play inside. He can play outside. But you talk about a guy who's a leader, a guy who works hard. He's everything that our team is about. We talk about everything being relentless and attacking the day with a relentless mindset every single day. That's what Kamari brings.
Coach, you said when you were first hired here that one of the things that you like to do is to develop talent, to develop those late round guys. You bring them in and build them up. How exciting was it for you to get that wealth of talent that you got today, this last day? There were a lot of good players still available for you all.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing to me about coaching is developing guys, seeing where they are. You select guys who have traits that you like, traits that you think will translate to helping us. And then as coaches, we have to help them, right, those next few steps to get them to maximize their talent and play to their capability, right? And so that's what I'm most excited about when you see the growth of a player from where he is once you get him to where the things you can help him, right, grow it as a player. That's why I like coaching, and that's why I enjoy coaching, is seeing the development. Nobody is a finished product once we get them, but these guys, all the guys we selected have, first off, their makeup, they're all really great people, right? And that's one thing we pride ourselves on is adding great people to our locker room. And then you get to the player that we had really good players with great traits, and we're excited to work with all of them.
For Nate or DeMeco, what was some of the feedback out of Columbus in terms of work ethic, toughness? Any stories about Kate Stover, things you guys heard?
Caserio loves.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's elite. I mean,
that.
this guy is as tough and hard-nosed a player that they had in the program. Just kind of going back to the question.
Let's hear that again. Listen, look at this guy when he talks about Stover.
Work ethic, toughness. Any stories
Watch
about
this.
Kate Stover, things you guys heard?
Yeah, whatever it is, it's elite. I mean, this guy is as tough and hard-nosed a player that they had in the program. Just kind of going back to the question and DeMeco's answer about developing players, I'd say Kate's a good example of a player who's only played tight end for 2 years, so he's certainly not a finished product, but he has the mindset and the work ethic to improve. I mean, how he was raised. I mean, this guy is everything you want in a football player and then more. I mean, he probably played hurt this year. I think he had an MCL or had an issue where, quite frankly, it would have limited some other players, but he just braced it up and he just kept playing football. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for DeMeco, but I think we feel the same way. This is probably one of our favorite football players in the entire draft.
Oh, wow.
Regardless of position, because of his mentality, because of his mindset. And he still is developing as a player. I mean, 2 years ago, he was playing defensive end in the Rose Bowl against Utah. Now he's, played tight end for 2 years, and here he is getting picked in the bottom of the fourth round. And his position is, we think tight end. That's why we drafted him. So, but I mean, blue collar as they come, and from a makeup, traits, toughness, mentality. I mean, this is an elite guy.
We'll take a few more.
Damn.
There was a moment
Or-
where the cameras, I think it was the Texans cameras, kind of caught y'all celebrating. If it's okay. What
Which
was
pick?
that?
I don't know. We celebrate after a bunch of them.
It was like one in particular where you dapped DeMeco up.
I think it was Bullock.
Yeah.
Okay, what
Yeah,
about
oh,
that?
y'all were pumped.
Was so exciting. What about that particular moment? If it's okay to ask that.
I think it's all exciting, man. The draft is just such an exciting process, and you go through and you study so many guys, right? And you have a select number of guys that you like and guys that you will want to work with, but you never really know how it's going to shape out because 9 times out of 10, like the other teams like the same players. So for us to get guys that we truly, right, have kind of highlighted to start the process, guys who've always kind of stuck out in their process, and for us to get guys like that, like we like Stover, like Bullock, right, Lassiter, it's exciting when you're able and you know the guy that you're adding to your team, right? You know the competitor that he is. You know what type of football player he is. Like, it's exciting. So all of our picks we were celebrating after. I don't think it was just one. We celebrate after all of them.
Oh, and like DeMeco, like we have fun. Like, and we've talked about this. I mean, the beauty of it, I mean, my respect for him is massive, but we see football through the same lens, and we're looking at a lot of the same things in players. We may have a variance of opinion, but we talk through everything. And this was a player that we had earmarked, quite frankly, we had talked about him maybe at 59 if we had the opportunity to pick him. And then I think we maneuvered, we had to move up a few spots. I think that's where we traded up. We gave 123 to move up a few slots. And we were able to get the player that we wanted because it's a player we had identified. And not that you're doing this, the reason you're doing it, but the number of teams that kind of reached out to us after the pick, I mean, there was a few teams that, you know, were basically saying they were getting ready to write the guy's name down. So it doesn't mean that we're right or wrong. It just means that, to DeMeco's point, these are players, there's certain players that you say, if we have an opportunity to add them to the team, let's figure out a way to do it. Let's be responsible and not be egregious with it. And I would say in Bullock's case, I mean, that was a situation. I mean, I don't know who was more excited, DeMeco or Stephen A., but it was pretty close. So again, we enjoy what we do. Like, we put so much time and effort into it, and like, we show that emotion. I mean, you've seen him chase the officials down the sideline, so he's faster than me, so I can't keep up.
I think all of your 6th and 7th round picks were 5-year college players, and Bird was 6 years. Are there benefits to having players that have so much experience and are maybe a little bit older?
It's a good question, Christy. It's kind of the inverse of some of the players that maybe they're all.
Yeah, the day ones were all 21. And then the day twos, I should say, Texans day one, day twos were all really young. And then yesterday it was 5 years plus.
Developmental players, but some have a lot of experience and have played more football. So maybe they're further along. But there's certain things technique-wise, I would say in Bird's situation, like you said, 5-6 years, however long it's been, and he's different than most college kids. I mean, he's married or has a relationship, has children, so he's pretty mature for his age. So that's certainly important, and they're approaching it. And this is a job. This is their job, and some have experienced that in college. I'd say the NIL, to a certain extent, has maybe forced different players to have a different type of mindset. So they have encountered some of the things that they're going to encounter on a day-to-day basis when they walk in our building. But Bird had a lot of experience. Henderson was a player who started, 40 games between ASU and then at Michigan last year. So you have players that are at varying levels of development, and then our job, like DeMeco said, as a staff, is to get them to perform whatever their optimum level is, to get to a point where they can perform and develop over the course of however many years it is.
Nick, I asked you about this last night about Blake and being able to move inside, but yet like you just mentioned Henderson, he picked up, he spent a lot of time at tackle, then he spent a lot of time at
he's played guard before.
Guard, i.e. on the left side. Is that somewhat indicating that that might be a fit that you might want to move in there and maybe can move Titus back out to tackle again? Y'all still playing with combinations? Is it just something projecting down the line?
Yeah, I know that's something that's talked about quite a bit with Titus. Probably that horse has been beaten. Titus is a good football player. He's a good tackle, and hopefully have the opportunity to continue to play him at tackle. But we're just trying to get the best 5 on the field. But I'd say specific to Henderson, has experience maybe even more inside than outside. He was at Arizona State. He played some guard, so he's probably a little bit different than Blake. And even when you look at him, like physically, like they're a little bit different, even though they might be similar. So we'll see how it goes. But we think Henderson can probably play inside with the ability to bump out the tackle. Blake, like we talked about last night, probably a little bit more tackle-centric and tackle-focused. So we'll see how it goes here in the course of the spring, and then once we get into training camp for sure.
Obviously, you like all the players you drafted today. Is there a person or an area where you're especially excited about working with one of the draft picks?
Like you said, all of them are equal to me. Like, I think we've added great players on offense and great players on defense. So it's not one player in particular. I love all our picks that we had, and I'm excited to work with all of them. All our coaches, they're all fired up and excited to work with the guys that we picked as well.
One of the things
we got Kim and Cole, and then we'll do a couple more.
We talked to guys after each round. We had a chance to interview them briefly. Many of them said, when you asked them to talk about themselves, they said, they run hard, they play hard, they love football. It seemed to be the same kind of theme Is that, I guess that's the swarm relentless, is that what you're looking for, those kind of players?
For sure, Kim. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for players who want to swarm. That's the mentality. That's how I see football. I mean, you only got so long to play it. You give it everything you have. You play as hard as you can possibly play, exhaust all the resources to be your absolute best, and we're here to help all of our players reach their best. So I love that all the players say that, because that's kind of how I tilted. Like, those are the guys that stick out to me, guys who, and you can see it on film, guys who love playing football, guys who love playing hard. They know what it looks like, so we don't have to teach them that once they get here. Now we're focused on just honing in on the fundamentals and techniques and getting technically better as a player. But once that ball is snapped, we need everybody playing with everything they have.
Nick, kind of piggybacking off of Chrissy's question with the guys who are veteran players because of the COVID-19 eligibility waiver, is it a case-by-case study where you don't want to say we're giving them this amount of time to see where they can improve, or is it you have a certain timeline to where you want them to be able to figure it out, or you have to move on to the next pick?
Yeah, you have to treat each player as their own entity, and they're at different stages in terms of their development. I think from our perspective, they start, their ground zero is once they walk in our building. So regardless of their level of experience, regardless of what's happened previously, when they walk in the door in 2 weeks, that's really year zero. So now then we have the opportunity to evaluate them, and every player has a different stage or different timetable relative to their development. But I would say by the time we get through sort of one cycle, rookie mini camp, spring, training camp, full season, go through an off season, we'll probably hopefully have a decent idea of where that player's arc may be. Now, if they have something that slowed their progress, which we've had a few players who kind of have lost a year, whether it was Mechie, whether it's Dylan kind of coming back from it. So it's always case by case, it's always individual. But as far as the Texans are concerned, we're respectful of what's happened in the past, but really their clock starts once they walk in our building, and then we'll see how far along we could take them with their development.
We'll go with Sarge and DJ last.
Go ahead, DJ.
All right, cool. All right, DeMeco, you've received the call when you've gotten drafted, Nick. Obviously, you've called players when they've gotten drafted. You've obviously been in the room watching other people call players when they've gotten drafted. What's that moment like when you can tell a player that, hey, you're about to be a Texan? What's that moment like when you hear their emotion, things of that nature? Just take us into that, and like, what is that like to basically help somebody reach their dream?
Yeah, as you can imagine, it's a moment of you talk about excitement. You talk about, man, that their dream is finally here, right? And they're getting the call. So it's kind of hectic making some of these calls because there's so much noise going on in the background. You can hardly talk to the player, and they're full of excitement, and they're just, so happy to finally get that call. So it's an exciting moment. It's one that it's different for every individual, and it's definitely to make that call, to be on that side, to make the call, to tell a kid that their dream is coming true of playing in the NFL. I'm definitely grateful to be in this position to make those calls.
Last one, Sarge.
I know that after the season, you have to go through the process of, Senior Bowl, pro days, combine, draft. How excited are both of you all just to get back to finally doing football? I know this is football, I understand that, but just to start getting back to putting things on the field, heading towards the rookie mini camp and the OTAs and training camp and things like that.
Yeah, I'm excited to take my scouting cap off now and finally start coaching a little bit. So I'm just in the office, just locked in, just watching as many guys as I can, studying as much tape as I can when it comes to scouting all these players, so I know, who we're looking at, know what we're getting. And so, yeah, I'm excited that we got the guys we got, and we're moving forward. Now we can get on the field, get outside. That's what I'm excited about, getting outside, right, getting some sun and coaching on the grass. That's what I'm definitely looking forward to that moment.
Football season starts Monday, so we'll be on the field with the players, phase 2, so kind of transition to that. So the scouting hat, he'll put it on my head full time. So if there's any players that are still out there, then that'll be my responsibility to make sure we get them in the building. So, but it's all exciting. I think we take a lot of joy in each aspect because it's an ongoing thing. It's really a 365. I mean, that's what it is. It's year round. It doesn't really stop. I mean, okay, the draft's over for this year. Now we kind of transition to a different phase. But our scouts will start to prepare for the 25 draft. We'll start the spring scouting process. We'll take a little bit of break, but we'll kind of transition. And there's a pool of players that we've probably evaluated already who chose to come back to school, that are going to be eligible for next year's draft that we're pretty far down the road on. So then it's the next batch of players. So it's ongoing, but he tells me all the time, just take a deep breath and relax. So at some point I'll heed his advice and do it. But no, we're excited with where the team is and excited with the players that are going to come in here in a few weeks. And it's football season. I know it's baseball season, which I know everybody's miserable all of a sudden, but it's football season for us. So.
Football, bro. Football, bro.
So.
Good. Good. All right, there you go. It's Nick Caserio. Good Lord, Giddy Caserio. We've gone from Hardo Caserio to Giddy. Look, you never know what the result's going to be. Some of the most decorated, celebrated drafts end up being bad ones. Some of the ones that go under the radar end up being good. But I've watched every word and heard every word multiple times that Nick Caserio has said. I don't know that I've seen him that giddy in a long time. We've gone through all the emotions with him. Neutered Nick before the DeMeco hire. A little bit giddy with DeMeco, Hardo, Caserio, all that. Again, I think the draft is okay. We'll see what happens, but you can tell that he definitely loves this draft. A couple comments before I get on. Again, we're going to have player profiles throughout the week. I'm going to drop those at 10 a.m. I'm still going to do the night streams, but I'm going to drop the special draft prospect breakdowns. I'm going to drop those at 10 a.m. at Monday through Friday. So the content's going to keep coming through, and we'll do the obviously we're going to have the show maybe 9 a.m. I'll do 9 a.m. so you can watch it before the show, and then you can get on the Odyssey app and YouTube and check this out. So I'll drop those. A couple comments before get out of here. 99 reasons on Lassiter's 40 times mean nothing. Look at the highlights and you'll I guess you're saying he plays much faster. You're looking at the highlights. A 4.6 is pretty slow, my friend. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all. But yeah, it's pretty slow. Mr. Heisenberg, running back room looks interesting despite Landry's reservations. What does interesting mean? I don't know what that means. Like intriguing, interesting. Yeah, it is interesting because you've replaced Singletary with Mixon, and then you have a guy who you didn't trust at the end of the year last year in Dameon Pierce, a special teamer in Dare Gumbawale, and you have a guy that was drafted in the 6th round that might be a kick returner. So I don't know what interesting means. I don't think it looks great there at all. Richard Sherman runs a 4.56. Okay, Richard Sherman's he was a former receiver. He's kind of a freak. I don't like the the random examples. It's like that. Those are rare exceptions. That's interesting. We'll see how Lassiter does though. What's my 40 time? Who cares? Probably like a 3.9 maybe. I don't know. Without shoes, probably like a 4.3. With shoes, probably like a 3.9. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, right along. Who knows how this draft ends up, but I think we can all agree because we've been in this ride together for a while. Nick Caserio seems giddy as hell when it comes to this draft. Shout out to Tank Dell. I know physically he's fine. Got to be going through it, though, mentally. That's got to be a real traumatic type of thing. Subscribe, right along. Be on the lookout for the prospect drops in the morning, Monday through Friday, live streams as well. And most importantly, in the loop, 10 a.m. Let's eat.
Got the game in the headlock, localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got takes for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do.